Let me tell you why I am worried about the upcoming US weather. Right now we have massive fires erupting over the northwestern US, and the smoke from these fires will be seen by millions all across the country, hurting your air quality. Worst of all, the upcoming weather pattern will not be helping put these fires out. The tropics are also just starting to wake up once again. Happy Saturday, my name is Piggy, and I'm going to break down this week's weather for your region of the country so you have no worries. Starting with where most of our action is, our northwestern states are dealing with the fire trouble, with red flag warnings spread all over. Taking a look at our satellite imagery here over the past few days, you can see the jet stream pulling all of this smoke eastward. You can also see the individual fires themselves right in here. And oh boy, there are a lot of them. Right now there are over 89 wildfires out here burning up over 1.6 million acres with extreme fire behavior. But why is it so desperate out here? Well, our weather has not been cooperating, with nighttime relative humidities across the interior not even reaching 40%, and daytime humidity even lower. With the humidity so low as of late, long-term drought has expanded out here, especially in Montana, keeping fuels dry for fires to burn from. Another key part of the equation is our wind gusts. Wind gusts, the magnitude of what we have been and will continue to see in our valleys and mountaintops, is what allows fires to spread out of control. But why is the upcoming weather pattern not going to help? Well, as always, follow along with the date and time at the top left of the screen. But we will be seeing a brief moment of cooler weather and troughing across the coast and interior for about a week. This should bring some rain to the coast especially, and perhaps some interior regions Monday into Tuesday. While this may put a damper on some of these wildfires, we may see a huge ridge build back in later next week and crank up the heat and fuel the fires. The cooler weather for this weekend and early this week should keep desert temps below 100 and coastal temps in the 70s. However, triple digits will likely return by Thursday and especially Friday across the interior. Broadening out, watch how this forecasted smoke plume travels. Smoke will be in the skies from the west coast all the way to Virginia, with the densest smoke traveling with the wind from Montana to North Dakota, blocking out the sun and keeping your air quality low. So stay inside. Speaking of North Dakota, let's shift over to the Midwest. Right now, we're feeling some pretty hot summer air. That cooler air out west will be moving into our region from west to east beginning tonight. This should only really be a small relief rather than a truly cold blast of air. As a ridge builds to our south, a nice corridor for severe weather may set up from Minnesota down to Ohio. That ridge will act to strengthen the temperature gradient, and thus the jet stream above us will also strengthen, while ample moisture and instability finds its way into our region around that Bermuda high. The best time for severe weather is probably Tuesday through Thursday, but I don't think it'll be too significant. Some rain and clouds early in the week could keep some areas from Iowa to Indiana cooler in the 70s and 80s. Otherwise, temps should keep to the 90s across the northern plains, with hotter temps perhaps above 100 into Nebraska, closer to the axis of that ridge later this week. Now up in the northeast, I want to give you an idea of what we have been through already before exploring the future. This July has been ridiculously active for tornadoes and severe wind up here, with several impactful systems including post-tropical cyclone Beryl. But are we going to see this continue to end the month? Well, I think it should be pretty dry to end off the month. Inland sections may be quite hot as well, as a ridge from the west builds into our region. There's a chance for a coastal system to bring some rains tomorrow night for us in coastal New England, but this is a relatively new development. I'm expecting mid to upper 80s for highs across the interior and southern coastal areas of the Northeast throughout this weekend and into early next week. By late week, that heat may begin to build with 90s and perhaps triple digits, more common further south. Taking a trip down south, us in the Southeast have seen a lot of lightning lately with our daily pop-up thunderstorms. This has helped alleviate the extreme drought we have seen in so many locations down here, but some drought still persists. Our weather patterns are going to be dominated by the Bermuda high, keeping us hot in the 90s daily, and I expect that some of these daily pop-up storms may become a little more isolated through this weekend, but they will return with earnest by midweek. Alabama through Tennessee as well as Florida should see the most precipitation, with up to 3 inches in spots during the next 10 days. But one wild card for rainfall down here is always the tropics. Due to some unfavorable background conditions and the record-breaking dust we've seen out here in the Atlantic, the tropics have have been quiet as of late. However, there are some initial signs that this may break down and we return to the promised more active pattern as we end July and work into early August. In fact, the European model has been keying in on a storm to develop somewhere in the Bahamas from a wave that has just left Africa. But this wave will run into some of that dusty dry air and perhaps some shear, so I think it may be tough to get too much development from this, but it is really far out and I will continue to monitor it for you, and you will be the first to know if it could be a threat for us in the southeast. Alright, taking you over to the south central states, we may be the epicenter of the heat this week. This past week, we have had a nice relief from the heat, but as that ridge that I mentioned earlier builds into our region, we're going to heat up nicely, particularly away from the Texas Gulf Coast. The heat wave should begin around Monday and likely last through the end of the week. Much of Oklahoma and Kansas will see our hottest temperatures crest above 110. Sadly, it will probably be quite dry out here with the best chances for any showers with some slightly cooler weather behind them on Friday. So stay hydrated and please stay out of the sun out here. Finally, us in the southwest will also get our fair share of heat from those further east. Right now, we already have widespread excessive heat warnings across California and Arizona as I record this video. We will have about a 3-day break from the heat throughout this weekend, with some troughing from the northwest extending down into our region. But heat and above normal temps should build back by Monday and last throughout next weekend. The four corner states should see the most excessive heat in our region. After this weekend, the monsoonal moisture should briefly retreat southward, so there is good news that this heat will likely be on the drier side. But now let's get to the actual temperatures. Coastal cities should keep to the 70s and low 80s through this weekend, with upper 80s possible by Wednesday and continuing throughout the rest of the week and next weekend. The Central Valley should maintain 90s through early this week and then triple digits into late week. Finally, our interior deserts should expect 90s and lower hundreds through the midweek flip, when 110s will become more widespread. As for rainfall, the best chances will be in the higher terrain of Arizona and New Mexico, but most of us won't be seeing any rain with the high pressure overhead. This isn't great news for us in southern New Mexico, where we are dealing with some pretty extreme drought. But that will do it for your forecast. Comment down below if you're seeing any smoke today and where you are. Stay safe and take care.